Welcome to a short presentation regarding steam quality in pharmaceuticals. My name is Clive Blunt. I'm the Market Development Manager for Healthcare within Spirax Sarco. And today we're going to discuss our approach to steam quality in pharmaceuticals. We're going to touch on areas such as regulatory requirements, the steam grades that we're likely to come across, steam quality and purity and the difference between the two, and products and solutions that Spirex have that are particularly aligned to the steam quality that's necessary for pharmaceuticals. So a little bit about my background. I have spent 13 years working at GlaxoSmithKline, so I'm very well aware of the regulatory drive within pharma. I know the influence the regulatory authorities have, and I know how important it is to remain aligned with them and certainly work very closely with them. So from a Spirex perspective, we recognize this, and we're well aware of, or certainly I am, well aware of the impact of a warning letter or a 483, and certainly the validation and certification requirements that you have through projects or new product. So we are, within Spirex, now recognizing this, and we are preparing the documentation packages that are equally as important as the quality of the product. Just a short slide to highlight the importance of regulatory needs within pharma. It just shows that it is the highest level of compliance industry that I'm aware of. There may be others, but certainly from my background, and certainly comparing it with other industries I've worked in, is way out in front in terms of its compliance needs. And that's a good and a bad thing. I think it's a good thing in terms of it gives us good direction, gives us lots of clarity, but also it is quite time consuming and a lot of work in terms of keeping themselves compliant. But we recognize this, and we will do our utmost with whatever product or solution we supply to support that need. Change control, this is again something I'm well aware of. Much easier to keep processes in a validated state. So if there is change to be made or new product to be supplied or new valves or new steam traps, then I certainly know from my experience that a like-for-like change is the far preferred option. Far easier for everybody concerned, and it makes life much, much easier. How we do that and how we work with pharma is something we are now starting to explore. The sooner we can get there, the sooner we can be a great support for the guys that are working within a pharma environment, the better. But we recognize it, and we recognize your preferred route, and we will support that. Just a little flowchart of what's necessary for when we have identified change, qualified change, approved change, implement change. Well aware of that cycle. And like I say, certainly from my old role within GSK, I would certainly prefer the like-for-like change if at all possible. Little pop-up there just gives the like-for-like, the ease of validation. Revalidation of a process is time-consuming. I certainly have experienced that, and it's something that, unless completely necessary, in my experience, best avoided. But obviously, if it's necessary, it's necessary, and again, we'll do our best to support you through that process. One of the things that we're also recognizing here at Spirex is GMP. I realize that GMP drives processes through pharma. It's sort of the language of pharma. What we're doing here at Spirex is saying, okay, we recognize that this is really important for our customers. What can we do to reflect that approach in our manufacturing processes? So we're doing that. I will touch on something shortly. We're looking at putting a facility in, and we are going to set our manufacturing processes up, and we're going to apply GMP where applicable. The really important thing for me is GMP supports quality assurance of process, and I think that's only a good thing, regardless of which industry you're working in. I think good GMP is something that we can all look at. Again, I will touch on this later on, but GMP principles will be applied in our production processes. They are, to a certain extent, I say, in the next few slides, I'll explain that in much more detail. Steam grades. Now, we may or may not all be aware of the steam grades and types of steam and names of steam that are used through the industry. We have filtered steam, which is largely used in food and bev areas. We have clean steam, which is really, from our perspective, in terms of our product range, is looking at sort of hospitals. Certainly some aspects of food and bev, and we expect that to grow in the not too distant future, but certainly around the hospitals and the food and bev, really. But the pure steam, the steam that I had most exposure to in my previous role is certainly pure steam. Largely, for me, pure steam used for autoclaves. I had 3 autoclaves within my production environment, and they were running from 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and it was a pure steam application because we were sterilizing contact parts for machine filling process. We were actually filling penicillin, dried penicillin powder into small vials. So the reason we touch on that is these are recognized grades of steam, but not necessarily fully understood through all industries. So we have another one, which is plant steam, and plant steam is sort of the industrial steam, the black steam, the sort of steam that we're probably most aware of. No standards governing the quality of the plant steam, so this is much more about operational. This is much more about heating buildings, potentially, but it's the steam directly from your boiler. And there is nothing wrong with plant steam at all for most industrial applications, but it's where is it being used is the most important thing. So there's nothing unacceptable as long as we know where it's being applied to. So depending on the application, it is unacceptable due to boiler feed carryover, so chemicals that are in the boiler feed water, scale in the pipe, rust, corrosion, no defined endotoxin removal, which is critical in terms of we're using this for a sterilization process. In theory, none of these endotoxins should survive in a steam system, but it's by far better to reduce risk and ensure that they don't exist in the first place. And then we have this possible recontamination through condensate loop and poor chemical purity. So plant steam, absolutely fine as long as it's used in the right application. Clean steam. Clean steam has many different names. So clean steam can, some people refer to clean steam as filtered steam or clean steam or pure steam. Not always entirely clear as to which is which and why, and are they different, and if so, how are they different? So these are sort of, certainly on my travels, and certainly when I've traveled through various industries, these are the names I've heard. Probably the biggest, probably the least clear is the difference between clean steam and pure steam. We should try to explore that now and explain the difference between the two. As I say, clean steam, pure steam, is there a difference? Well, yes, there is. Yes, there is a difference. Historically, there was no clarification or classification of pharmaceutical steam. So this is where a lot of the names appeared from. So clean steam, pure steam, WFI steam, process steam, and there are probably many, many more. But the confusion came about because there was no classification. I think confusion still reigns, maybe not anymore, but I certainly know the difference between clean steam and pure steam still causes some debate. So in order to clarify the situation, if you look at the US Pharmacopoeia, there is now a definition of what is pure steam. I won't read through this, the slides will be available. But certainly from a pharmaceutical perspective, and certainly from, again, going back to my previous background, definitions and clarity were great things to have. Because if you've got a definition and clarity, you know what you have to work to. Therefore, there's no ambiguity. The regulatory groups know what you need to achieve, and certainly then from a production perspective, you also know what you need to achieve. So clarity, in my experience in pharma, is very much a good thing. So in simple terms, just to touch on that, the way I remember this really is that pure steam is intended for use where steam or its condensate comes into contact with the article or the preparation. Pretty much, if your steam is touching your process or your product, then pure steam really is the way to go. And clean steam and pure steam through Europe, generally we follow EN 285. There was HCM 2010. And 2031, sorry, I couldn't remember my numbers there. And this is what guides us through Europe. I think I haven't found anything else that's clearer than these, and this is generally what we work to. So EN 285 really giving you largely around the steam quality rather than the purity, and WH or HTMs are superseded by WHTM. Takes us a stage further and gives a lot of definition about sterilisation processes in general. There's also the DIN standard in Germany, again, clean and pure. This is quite a nice way of looking at it. It does tend to break it down into sterilising steam and pharmaceutical pure steam, but it does give you a nice, simple definition at the end where non-product contact, i.e. sealed pharmaceuticals, potentially a way you can get through is sterilising steam, or maybe we call that clean steam. But if your product is in direct contact with the steam, then we were looking at pure steam. So in simple terms, sort of an overview of those. Really, if we're looking at pure steam, again, the way I always remember it and the way we certainly used to test it, let's take a sample of the condensate, and that condensate needs to comply with the expectations of WFI, the water for injection. If your condensate complies with WFI, water for injection, then you have pure steam. And that's really this part at the bottom. The important difference is the conductivity of condensate, i.e. your purity. But pure steam, in simple terms, in contact with the product. Clean steam, not necessarily so. Again, my expectation in pharma is there's not an awful lot of point in having a pure steam and a clean steam system. I've only ever experienced that if you have a system and you need steam for sterilisation, then there's no point in having two. Stick with pure steam, and then you live on the safe side. Again, that's pretty typical with pharma. Reduce risk and take the pure steam option. So the other interesting point is are we looking at steam quality or are we looking at steam purity? They are different. So purity is the chemical and microbial attributes of the condensate. Generally, in my experience, this is tested by the customer themselves. I've not been into a pharma facility yet that they can't do that themselves. I would expect all pharma to be testing their purity and testing on a very, very frequent basis. The quality is where we have, in my experience, more gaps. EN285, certainly for Europe, and I think it's generally across globally, quality is the attributes of the steam, so the dryness, the non-condensables, the superheat, and this is quite important. It's very, very important in terms of how effective your sterilisation process, so your autoclave would be. If you don't have the right quality, or your non-condensables are not correct, and you have too much superheat, then you don't achieve your sterilisation process as you would expect to. Again, this comes from EN285. We certainly, again, in my experience, always look for a dryness fraction of 0.95, whether we had porous or methods. Again, erring on the side of caution and being on the safe side. Certainly, again, that's the way I worked my life through pharma. Non-condensables and superheat. Again, good measurables. Measurables are good because if you can measure them, you can test for them, and if you can achieve them, then you know your process is in control. Excuse me. I think we've touched on all of those. One of the things that I certainly would have enjoyed in my previous role is if I had some continuous process of measuring my steam quality. This is currently largely a manual test. We used to do these relatively infrequently, sort of maybe 5 or 6 times a year. But certainly from a production manager's perspective, on my previous role, if I could have had continuous recording and data display of my steam quality, I would have had a far greater understanding of my sterilisation process. So why steam quality? If we talk of steam primarily used for sterilisation, then the condition of that steam will have a really, really important effect on the sterilisation process. So the steam supplied to an autoclave must be dry saturated steam. And the release of that latent heat as the steam condenses to moisture, that's really what does the work. That's really where the sterilisation occurs. We touched on this earlier with the difference between the steam qualities, steam or steam quality that, going back to my words, my steam grades, just to make sure I'm using this, is the plant steam. So if we go back to plant steam, this is certainly where you wouldn't want plant steam. You wouldn't want plant steam anywhere near a sterilisation process. And touching on those that understand sterilisers, well, obviously if you had too much air in your steam, anything that would prevent the steam contacting your product or your machine parts, then you certainly don't want that. It will affect how your sterilisation process works, and it will affect it in a detrimental way. And excessive moisture. So all of these things you need to test for, and you need to ensure your quality of your steam. And as I said before, currently tested using a manual process. The validation and the validated process, we have touched on this all the way through. Validated processes must remain compliant, and certainly they then need to be requalified, probably on a 6 to 12 month basis. Not very easy if you don't have continuous data recording of your steam quality. Again, certainly from my experience, if I had any cycle failures through my autoclaves, generally where it runs, the knock-on effect and the quality compliance issues, and in our case Q3s or quality investigations, they could take a significant amount of my time. So best avoided in my experience. So in terms of continuous steam quality, Spirex Sarco is just about to release, certainly during Q1 of 2016, a piece of equipment that will continually monitor, record, display and capture in real time the steam quality being supplied into an autoclave. So it's had a number of trials, it's performing very well, it's, as I say, being launched in Q1, significant amount of interest in this product from pretty much everybody I've spoken to. So there's a lot of testing to be done, there'll be a lot of validation protocols to run, but very exciting product, and certainly one that I know from my previous role would have been one I would have been welcomed with open arms in terms of what it could bring. So just launching in Q1 2016, and it's a continuous steam quality testing process. And then we come through to the pharmaceutical product. So Spirex has a very strong range that is already aligned to this industry. In terms of distribution of pure and clean steam, we have a full product range that will cope with all needs, all expectations, all design criteria, all validation criteria, documentation criteria, so everything you would need in terms of product for your clean and steam, pure steam systems, then Spirex has it. Again, Spirex is probably best known for its sort of plant steam applications, but there's a growing trend through Spirex to be looking at the clean and pure steam systems, largely why we are now focusing, and largely what this presentation is around, just to raise the awareness that we are very capable in this environment, and we are growing and we are developing our skills and expertise. And we have total clean steam solutions right from the generation through to the distribution of steam, the control of that steam, the application that steam is being used for, and then the condensate return. So this is one thing that Spirex has huge amount of knowledge and experience on, and we have a product range that suits all of those needs. We can start with the sort of knowledge and expertise for advanced design and training. Certainly an awful lot of training. It's one of the things that I find very exciting about Spirex. It's very capable and has fantastic training facilities, one to be explored and probably one to spend a little time looking at what Spirex can offer in that direction. We have the range of hygienic steam traps, sight glasses, pretty much everything you could expect in that area. High quality and high quality product aligned for high purity control valves, so high purity of steam. We have products all aligned for that, and then ball valves and ancillaries for compliant and effective pure steam and clean steam distribution. So pretty much everything you would expect, and probably stuff, or probably product that you may not be aware of, Spirex has it. Following on from all of my discussion and following on from giving you some background on Spirex and its clean and pure steam, we have just started work on consolidating all of our clean steam product and pure steam product into one dedicated manufacturing facility. I have been appointed to run this facility, so from a pharmaceutical background, I'm going to set this facility up to reflect the industry we're going to be supporting. So we'll have GMP procedures, we're certainly building very comprehensive documentation packages, we're going to have clean rooms, we're going to run to an ISO 7, and we're going to operate this very much along the lines of a pharma facility, within reason. Obviously we're not producing drug products within the facility, but certainly the way we operate, the way we train, the way we control our process flows, the way we control our material flows, the way we control our people's access and egress will be very much aligned to pharmaceutical expectations. And we intend to use this as a bit of a showcase. So any customer that's looking at clean and pure product will be welcomed in. Come and have a look. Come and see how we're starting to really understand your industries and what we know really drives you, what we really know, what's important for you, and how we can reflect that. And certainly, I'm looking to develop corporate relationships with this and use this as really a building block for creating very close working relationships with those customers that need clean and pure steam systems. So as I say, this building will be operational in early 2016. The business unit manager, that's me, has 13 years of experience working with sterile powder filling. So sort of high-end experience of sterile facilities, and we're going to bring that knowledge set into this group. We're recruiting a group of people that are going to be dedicated to these industries, and they will understand what we need to provide from a Spirex perspective to reflect the industries that we're serving. And just to wrap this up, just a final couple of slides about Spirex. Very, very comprehensive packages, from improving the productivity, energy efficiency, emissions, system reliability, total cost, support. Certainly, Spirex, in simple terms, does what it says. So very, very, the depth of knowledge in steam systems is extraordinary. And this is one other thing that I find fascinating. It's a business, Spirex. You can see that we have 8 manufacturing sites dotted around the world, in companies, 187 sales offices, and 52 distributors. If you just look at the dots, you can see that Spirex truly is a global network, and certainly my experience of support in various regions, it should give a high degree of confidence that Spirex can support you wherever you happen to be based. So that's it, really. So I hope that was useful. I'm certainly happy to follow this up with any further presentations we may need. But my suggestion is that if you need any more information and need anything to get the most out of your steam systems, certainly contact your local sales office. As you saw in the previous slide, you will have a local sales office. So thank you for listening. I hope it was interesting, and thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye.